Chat test and volume test. All right.
Finishing, the last step to take on your working project is so important to really make a great project. We're here to help you get the best possible thing on all of you. Sign up for Workers Bill of America premium membership today for only $3 for an entire year. That's 93% off the normal price. Hey, that's less than a cup of coffee.
All right, so today we're going to move on from the Conte. We did the dark and light Conte sticks. Last time we did the dark and light Conte sticks. This time we're going to be using Nupastel. So you'll notice a difference between the way the Conte behaves and the way the Nupastel behaves. I find the Nupastel to be softer and kind of easier to layer in and out on itself. It's not quite as, I don't know, waxy or difficult to make bold marks with, particularly the white. So for this, and your Nupastels may be various colors, so you could have gotten a 2-pack of like green and like a light pink or something like that, something that's rather dark and rather light. Basically what I want to be able to do is make a dark mark on my gray paper and make a light mark on my gray paper. And if you don't have the gray paper yet, you can use white paper, same story. It just won't be as effective. Like you'll have a better time of it on the gray paper because your white will always be able to make a lighter mark than at least the paper, and your dark should be able to make a darker mark than the paper. So you have a wider range that you can work in. All right. Just a note as well, we're headed into the final stretch. So way to hang in there, y'all. This is the last class drawing we're going to do, the Conte or the Nupastel and gray paper. After that, I just want you working on the final project, which opened up today, and I'll probably release a YouTube video later of me just like step by stepping through that project, but it's open now. You can go look as to what your final drawing is going to be like. And I would say the plan then is this week to finish this drawing, and then next week and slightly there, and like the next week and a half after, work on that final drawing, which is going to have a little bit more conceptual stuff to it. So it's not just going to be, oh, here's a figure. What I'd like you to do is sort of think about, it's going to be a self-portrait. Think about how you're putting it together, what you want to say, and sort of invest in it in a way maybe that you don't in these just sort of exercise drawings. So anyway, there will be a separate video, shorter, that goes through that you can look at. And as always, feel free to message me on Canvas if you have questions or anything like that. All right. Seemed like, what else was I going to say? Oh, the due dates on that. So anyway, mind that video. The due dates are going to be slightly different because the end of the semester. So the end of the semester is going to change the way the due dates on the final project work. You won't have that. You won't have endless time to turn in a late piece, so like you have sort of with the other ones. So just be aware of that. I have to submit grades and get things graded pretty quick after the final day of the semester, so there will be a point at which you can no longer turn in that final project. Just don't run into that. All right. Okay, I'm going to kick this off. And I have a paper towel here, just in case I decide I want to do like a smearing thing. I might. I'm going to hold off on my white stick. I could do like the Conte and make my squares. And in fact, if you found that helpful, I would do it as well and just be like, okay, I know that full strength red is going to be my core shadow. Less red is going to be my reflected light. Gray paper maybe will be my halftone. and white is going to be my nuances in highlight all the way through center light, potentially into halftone. One thing you'll find with these is they'll mix together quite a lot too, so that can be really nice, but it can also be really gross, like muddy. This is the rule going forward. The rule I would keep in mind is don't let the white get into your shadows at all. So when you've identified your shadows, keep your white out of them the best that you can. Red, this can move into the light because the white will mix into it and make it look like it belongs in the light as well. But if your white gets into your shadows, I don't care how light the reflected light looks, it'll start to mess things up. So just be careful with that. All right, I'm gonna look at this guy and sort of decide where I want my focus to be. Yeah, his knee is real. His knee and leg are interesting. His shoulder and arm and his face is great. He's got like a really sort of rugged, old, like Renaissance looking face. He's got a really distinctive and really, there's a lot of character in his face. I don't want you to focus on that. That's just something I'm noticing about this model. So I'm just trying to find these overall passes through the body. Something to measure with. Delilah's wondering if the white is a Conte or a Nupastel. This is a Nupastel, and this is probably the biggest difference between what we did before, what we did last week, and this week is the white Nupastel makes such a smooth, velvety mark. The white Conte is kind of a hard stick, and it works, it makes marks, but this, you'll notice with the Nupastel, it just lays down a strong light mark. So yeah, the white is a Nupastel, the light color is a Nupastel. They both are. The two can work together, so you can use a white Nupastel on a dark Conte. That will work. It gets difficult if you go the other way. So if you have a dark Nupastel and you try to use the white Conte on it, it's not soft enough of a stick to really make a good mark. I think we'll do the smear thing on this too, just so you can see. So with the Conte, there was one where I didn't smear at all, and then the other one where I smeared, and you saw all the sort of nuances that you can get when you have that layer of smear. Here I can use this stick to my advantage and kind of swipe in areas of dark. It gives me a head start on the shading. Even while I'm still in this preliminary stage. Looking at the negative shape here. So I'm going to try and sort of, before I try and draw this arm out in its entirety, I have the gesture of where it's generally flowing to, but I'm not going to try and draw along the arm necessarily. I'm going to sort of lay in this, that negative shape first. And I can measure this whole time if I like. Fist is a little down. It's down by the knee almost. And I'm just going to gesture that in as like this kind of squarish shape. So it's like there's this emptiness, empty space here. But since I have this negative shape sort of giving me some anatomy, it gives me something to react against to finish out the rest of the arm. And I guess I can decide, is it too wide? Is it too not? Right now it's looking like this is a little too bulgy to me, so I'm going to just check that against something I trust. Which it's like, what do I trust? I don't know, maybe this region. It seems a little bit big. I kind of trust the other arm. Let's compare the two. So bottom arm is roughly the same. It's about the same or a little less than that arm. So I am bulging a little too much there. What to do? Well, fix it. Shoulder should come up a little bit. And this is a little bit gentler. I'm going to swipe in some shadows here just to give myself a feel for the dimension of that arm, because sometimes the things can seem too wide when the light shadow isn't on them. So right now that gives me a sense of the head. All right, there's some kind of directional situation, but I haven't drawn anything out on it. If you, in your drawing, want to leave it a little sternocleidomastoideus, the sternal notch is here, so I'm looking like, where is the ear? Getting the V situation of the neck a little bit, and just, I may just leave like that. And if you leave yours like this as you flesh out the rest of the body, that's going to be totally fine. Almost more important than getting the, like, I'm not going to draw fingers here. I'm just going to draw the overall silhouette of the hand. And then there's like a dark, there's like a shadow shape. And I think if I just get that, it'll feel like his hand. And I haven't drawn any fingers. I've just drawn, if you can get close, I've just drawn like a few shapes with an overall silhouette. Oftentimes that can be, at least at the start, that can be a better route. All right, I'm going to do just a little bit of this kind of treatment in the legs. Also going to do a quick measurement. I go arm, shoulder to sort of acromion to the end of the fist. It goes from hip to middle of calf. So acromion to end of fist goes from hip to the... So I've got his legs just a little bit short. This could be just down a tad. down from the knee. I'm going to look for that lateral malleolus. It's like right here. That goes a long way in describing the foot. And I'm not going to give this a ton more than that, because this isn't really going to be the focus. This leg now, man, that still feels pretty good here. So similar to the other drawing too, I'm gonna downplay this back leg. All right, so at this stage, I think I'm gonna go ahead and smear it. By the way, I tend to do a smear that kind of goes all over, right? It's this, just smear the page. If you wanted to, you could come in with something and just like do really specific, just smear the body and keep your background clean, and it would really make things seem quite clean. I like to erase my background back out. I feel like it gives kind of a better sense of atmosphere to the thing. So that's what I tend to do. I just kind of like give an overall smear, then I start erasing out, and eventually I'll put the white stick in the light parts to sort of give full treatment. Right now what I'm going to do is come back through. I might even smear this a little bit more aggressively. I'm going to come back through and clean up some of the line work that I had. And probably not everywhere. I'll probably let this stuff make that leg go back a little bit further, make it more of a silhouette. Yeah. So I'm going to focus my line work on where I want things to pop out more. And for me, that's like right through the chest, definitely on this leg. The face, if I was going for it, but I think in this one I might just leave the face alone. So that's still my dark Nupastel, and you see the nice, sort of like the nice red. You get, the Nupastels give you the option to go with all kinds of different colors. Incidentally, the Conte does come in different colors as well. I just find Nupastel to be softer, and it's a different medium. It's worth trying different things out. There's a bit of foreshortening in this arm, so I decided to play the better safe than sorry, so I made this arm just a little bit shorter than it normally is, and I could make the hand a little bit smaller than it normally is and sort of just make it look like it's going backwards in space. Here's where I want to be careful with my lines. I want this to be a little more accurate than what was there before. I want to make sure and get, there's a bump down here by the kneecap. I want to make sure and get that because that bump is sort of the muscle, the transition from muscle to bone. That little juncture, it's going to be nice. A little bit of tibial tuberosity there. Here's these tendons coming from the TFL. It's that sort of straight strap tendon coming down the thigh. And then there's even a little bit of the hamstrings. It's the biceps femoris down below, but a little bit of the hamstrings peeking through as well. And then outside of the calf, there's the fibularis muscles, which are kind of straight. So out here, everything kind of like shoots down to this malleolus. And I don't want to get too detailed down here because I am going to let things drop off. I'm going to use my smear again. Here's something that I like to do. Like you see this darkening around the joint. So like fist, knee, other fist, elbows, ankles, places where bone is close to the skin. I may not do it on these elbows since they're behind, but like knees and stuff, it can really be nice to have them darken just a little bit. Almost hinting that the bone is close to the skin here. And then as you add the values to this, it just feels a little more, I don't know what, alive maybe. It's almost like knuckles, like red knuckles. Like if you concentrate the red on the knuckles, things just seem more, I don't know, like lifelike. Let's measure that to make sure I'm not getting that too wide. That distance is this less than the arm, so I think this initial line was the correct one here. Don't be afraid of these like incidental lines. So like I've got marks here, like there's a bad line or like an incorrect line. There's some initial gesture lines hanging out. There's like 4 or 5 different lines in here. Don't try to erase all of those away. You don't really need to. Just work with them. But you shouldn't need to endlessly erase. Because as soon as I make this choice, now no other line exists except for that one I just made, because it's just stronger. All those mistake lines, because I didn't go full tilt at the start, all those mistakes just kind of fall backwards as you build the drawing up. And if you're careful, if you make good decisions and you don't get hasty and you don't get lazy, those enough good decisions over time start to accumulate, and you end up with this drawing that feels really well considered. And sometimes seems inevitable, like, oh, that's just like there was never a time when that drawing didn't work. And it's like, yeah, there was. There were a bunch of decisions in that drawing that were problematic, didn't work, whatever, but because you made better decisions cumulatively over time, they outrank the wrong decisions. And I would say some of my favorite drawings are infused with that sense of old decisions that got replaced with better ones as the drawing developed. So I'm going to keep this sort of smear going. I'll come back. I don't want to just smear indefinitely because then things are just going to stay messy, and I definitely don't want to smear anymore once the white goes down. As soon as I add white, that paper towel is going away. Because if I start smearing with the paper towel with white on the page, it's game over. It's going to be a milky mess. Face out of the frame. There's that deltoideus muscle that wraps around. There's trapezius, that bulge there. And deltoideus wraps around it, dives in right about mid-arm. You have biceps, brachialis, and triceps. So there are anatomical things to consider here. We didn't talk about this muscle. It's one of the flexors, but it's really pronator teres. It's this little strip of muscle that runs from right here into the center of the arm. So that little angle change is actually communicating something about the elbow. Alright, so I'm going to get light and shadow border figured out a little bit better, and then I'm going to start laying in some white. And erasing too. It'll be a combination of both. I'm going to be looking for wrinkles here. Because he's bent, you've got compression in here and stretch, like squeeze on the inside and stretch on the outside. So this is going to be kind of real gentle overlaps, kind of stretched out stuff. This is going to be tight together stuff with a lot of little overlaps. See just a little bit of light peeking up over those shorts. Are those shorts? I'm gonna let the line for those, we'll call them shorts, underwear, whatever they are, I'm gonna let that come and go. So it's a little wider here, then it kind of drops off. It's gonna give it a little more dimension. Just getting these dark shapes in without trying to draw a face. It's just like triangle, line, other line, maybe with part of that line shooting up to this big dark gap there. You start getting a face really fast when you treat it like that instead of trying to draw a bunch of features. His hair's coming down in front, so that saves me a bit. All right, so I'm going to get my eraser and go for some just to luckily I can just readdress those shapes. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, and then this is starting to take a ton of attention because of how dark. I'm gonna overshoot with this eraser because I know white is coming. this leg. I've yet to decide if I'm going to come all the way down to the fist. I might sort of keep focus here, sort of in this central stripe. If I really dress out this fist, I don't know, we'll see what the knee does. Maybe there's like a loop here that's kind of nice to go in. So I'm not just going to render everything for the sake of rendering it. Like, well, it's there, so I might as well fully render it. In a drawing, you don't have to do that. You don't have to render, shade out every single thing you see. And for these drawings especially, if you have a spot that's like, hold yourself accountable, you don't want to do less work just for the sake of less work. But if there's a good reason not to render something out, like that back leg, for instance, I don't need to render out that back leg. And in fact, the unrendered nature of that back leg is giving more importance and more oomph and more clarity, really, to this front leg, right? This is saying, poof, it's throwing this thing in my face. Similar, like if you see portrait photography where the face, like the eyes and the nose are really in focus, and then the ears in the background kind of drop out of focus significantly. Essentially what that does is it increases the depth of that photo and makes you really focus on what's clear. Like it gives context for you. Right? So it's like there's no question here what you're supposed to be looking at. You don't go, oh, back leg, and sort of get lost here, because you instantly identify it as less important, less resolved, and your attention goes somewhere else. Mainly here. I do have a little bit of work to do up here because I don't want the face to be in just total darkness. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of the light shapes out. And I don't want us to focus there. So I'm going to leave that sort of where it's at. If I get to the end of the image and I'm like, you know what, that needs a little more resolution or something, then I'll go back to it. For now, I'm going to ease some of this, some of these eraser shapes. All right, and it's going to be white stick, and so if I just look at the overall image, I see like hit, and on the leg, and obviously on the face. And if I were to go into the face with the white stick, I better plan to do the full treatment. But I think I might keep our attention. I might even leave these. Maybe I'll hit this one a little bit, but I'm definitely going to get this shoulder there. Maybe a little down here, that leg, maybe some of this arm. I'm going to think about this loop. All right, and don't be afraid, the first few marks you put down with white, my goodness, they're really strong. Really be gentle with this, by the way. Sometimes less is more. Like I may just leave. It's not like you need to cover the whole drawing with white stick now. This is like icing on the cake, and you can see it popping things out. It's creating this kind of shine. You'll see me doing little bits with my pinky, just maybe like a touch here and there to knock some of the oomph out of the light shape that I put down. Right, one thing you may have noticed is that these, once you get used to the medium, these drawings come together quicker, relatively quicker than like a full pencil drawing might. Right, here's maybe some of that spot smearing. So I'm gonna fold this paper towel up. If I don't like the texture that this has on the paper, I can really carefully take some of the textural oomph out of this stuff. But if I do too much of this, stuff's going to start getting milky, and personally, I don't care for it that much. I'd rather have some of that paper texture. It looks a little more decisive, I think. If I want to show off this front edge a little bit, maybe just a little bit here to help sort of frame them in. All right, and I think rather than carry on for another half hour on this one, I'm just going to let it be where it's at. You get the idea with the Nupastel. It's very similar to the Conte. Just it's a softer medium. Sort of layers a little bit differently. Definitely capable of more smoothness. I think tomorrow, so this will be sort of where I stop here. I think tomorrow I'll push it a little harder and sort of see what happens when the white and the white and the color mix together. And I'll pick a different color for tomorrow as well. All right, so that's it for the Nupastel. Good luck. I'll see you tomorrow if I see you. Otherwise, these ones will be due Sunday. And then, as I said, keep your eyes open for the final project coming up. All right, it's published already. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll walk through it anyway.